Our next guest is the author of Superpowers, A Busy Woman's Guide to Health and Happiness. She brings 30 years of health-changing expertise to individuals worldwide. Adita Lang, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Steve.
I love the title of your book, Superpowers, A Busy Woman's Guide to Health and Happiness. So what do you mean by superpowers?
Basically, it's taking the superpowers of health. And in my mind, health is a combination of exercise and movement, sleep and relaxation, food and nutrition, and happiness. And you have to balance all four to be truly healthy.
Interesting. So just the balance of all four, because I guess sometimes people maybe do well in one or two areas?
Correct.
Interesting.
I see a lot of people who will be, they're exercise fanatics. They try to eat meticulously, but yet they're grumpy and they don't sleep. And so that's not a good combination.
So in a way, so I think people like the idea of balance. At the same time, now there's four things I got to focus on.
I've added to your list.
Yeah, added to my list. And let's talk about that because, I know as we've talked, you're very aware that women have very long to-do lists.
Yes.
So how has this kind of fit, how has that reality fit into, the work you're doing and with the book?
It's something as simple as exercise. And I take responsibility on this one too, because I started teaching about 30 years ago. And when I taught, I would tell people that they needed to exercise 3 to 4 times a week for 60 minutes. And honestly, when that client came up to me and said, I only got 48 minutes in, I would give them grief and I'd go, you need 60 minutes. That's what you need. And unfortunately, the more we did that as fitness professionals, the more we had people that said, you know what? I don't have 60 minutes. I'm not going to work out. And people just stopped. So the American College of Sports Medicine recently came out and said, the novice individual only needs 150 minutes of activity, and the more elite athlete needs about 300 plus minutes of activity a week. If you really break that down, the other beauty of what they said is that it doesn't need to be consistent. So what that means, and what I try to teach, is that you could wake up in the morning and do squats and lunges for 3 minutes, and then in the afternoon do a couple of more little things, and then maybe take an afternoon walk, and by then you got 35 minutes of exercise in that day, and then move on to your next day. The other thing that they brought up, which I thought was wonderful, is that it was basically they were talking activity. They weren't talking exercise. So what they were saying was as long as you could increase your heart rate and break out into a sweat, that counted. So those minutes of cleaning your house or building the shed or doing gardening actually counted towards your minutes of activity for the end of the week.
Interesting. So what do you say to a woman who just says, look, I'm just so busy, I can't find time to exercise? What's your advice?
Let's do one set of squats in the morning and a set of push-ups in the afternoon, because that's just going to take you from doing nothing to something.
Can that really make a difference?
Absolutely, yes.
Why?
Well, if you were doing nothing, right? So someone who's doing absolutely nothing, to all of a sudden just doing 2 activities, squats and push-ups.
Okay.
Squats is primarily legs, push-ups is upper body.
Right.
Again, you went from nothing to something.
And it gets rid of the guilt.
Yes.
There we go. So let's talk about nutrition. There's lots of information out there. We're inundated with what to eat, what not to eat. Talk about, let's say, for women that want more energy. What should they be eating? What should they avoid?
Well, here's what we kind of did as a society, is we decided that food was no longer fuel. It was comfort. It was socialization. And it was that thing you did when you broke up with a partner. And that's not it. We are like a fine-tuned sports car. And a sports car, you would never give it regular gasoline, because if you did, if I gave you a Ferrari and you gave it regular gasoline, within a week, it wouldn't drive the same. And so the same thing as the human body, we are a fine-tuned engine. And so it is about nutrients, not calories. So what I teach women to do, and in my book I talk about snacking and eating on the run, but eating highly nutrient-dense foods. So not manufactured foods, not the cookie or and it doesn't matter if it's organic, multi-grain, sprouted. It's foods in their natural state. Those are the things that actually those nutrients jolt into our system and give us a high. And those are the things that energize us.
Great. And so we've covered, I think, 2 of the pillars, right? Exercise, nutrition. What's the third?
Zen, or relaxation, that sleep and relaxation. So I talk about really getting good night's sleeps. Basically, when you wake up in the morning, you should wake up ready for your day. And if you don't, then you have to reevaluate what you're doing for your nighttime rituals. So I have some really easy to follow formats on how to figure out your nighttime rituals. And at the same time, too, during your day, to alleviate stress, the typical person does not focus on themselves at least once a day. Once a day. And that doesn't mean you have to do it for an hour. You could do it for 5 minutes, but do something that you really, really like once a day. And so I teach, again, people how to look at your day and figure out what is that thing that you want to do for yourself, even if it's for 5 minutes, because just those 5 minutes will actually diffuse you.
So do you have an example of maybe somebody you've worked with where this advice really helped them?
I had a client of mine, very stressed out. The husband has cancer. The daughter has had multiple injuries in her sports endeavors, and so she was always on edge. And I told her we were going to do a little task one day. And I brought a notebook and I said, okay, this is your notebook. It's going to be your relaxation rituals. And I took one page and I said, what do you love doing? And she goes, I love painting my nails. So I wrote painting nails. I turned the page. I said, what else do you love doing? I love having tea. So I wrote it down. So we went through 15 things that she loves to do. And that book now is sitting on her coffee table. I've got a pretty book for her. And it's when she feels stressed out, her job is to open the book, whatever page it lands on, she has to do whatever that is for the allotted time.
That's great.
Now, granted, she has come to me with only 2 nails painted before, but that's okay because she was happy and that's all I cared about.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. And so we've talked about nutrition, exercise, Zen, and the fourth?
Happiness. So it's about really being happy. And laughing, and they statistically they say kids will laugh about 400 times a day, but an adult will only laugh about 15. So it's about really getting in. You get endorphins when you laugh, and looking at life a little bit differently, and realizing that when you're upset, it's how you took in whatever was in front of you. No one threw that upsetment at you. They didn't throw anger at you. It's how you interpreted it. And so trying to figure out ways of reinterpreting certain situations so that you can look more on the brighter side of things and be a little bit happier.
Interesting. Well, it makes total sense. And so I love it. So you've your subtitle, I'm sure this information could probably help pretty much anybody, but you do say it's a busy woman's guide. Why do you focus on women in the subtitle? Do women have totally different health situations?
The bottom line is the information would go for both men and women. But I pretty much try to focus on that woman who is getting her nails done, making breakfast, getting the kids ready for school, and still has to drop off laundry and get to the office, all at one time.
The multitasker.
The multitasker, which men can't really multitask at that rate.
Well, very good. Well, listen, this has been fantastic. Thanks so much for all that you've shared.
Thanks for having me.
Adita is the author of Superpowers, A Busy Woman's Guide to Health and Happiness. You can get more information at aditalang.com.